introduce you to the others that are holding the call with me. So obviously we have Christopher, and I'll actually go to Brandon to start with an introduction.
Hey everyone, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. My name is Brandon Bozart. I am a transformational coach, workshop facilitator. I play the flute and do a lot of other things. And I'm really happy to be here. I'm here because Christopher is an amazing human being, and I believe with every ounce of my heart in the mission that you and you are all on collectively, and that Christopher has shared with me and that I've gotten to witness. So
beautiful. Want me to pop in? Okay, awesome. So I am Solara Rose, and I'm very, very deeply thankful to be here sharing the sacred space with all of you. I am a multi-dimensional energy expert, channeler, speaker, transformational coach, advisor. Also do many, many other things, sing, dance, love immensely. And I am here, and I'm thrilled to be here because I'm completely devoted with every ounce and fiber of my being to crystallizing paradise on earth for each of us individually and as a whole collective unit.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm Rachelle. My company is called Dirt and Soul. It's everything that I do is really about this foundation piece. So as far as what are you building anything from? So what are you growing who you are as a person from, and your relationship, your business, your community, everything has to come from this very deep, rich soil, and from that place of nourishment of like what's our foundation. And so when in talking to meeting Christopher way before I even knew about One Nation or what he was up to in the world, the work that we met in was this very, very deep container. And so being able to like see the level of depth of what he was committed to in his own personal journey of this kind of transformational process, and then later knowing, you know, what he was doing as far as this vision of creating a very different world from this foundation of like our own personal transformation. And so I was definitely in from that get-go. And so anyway, with that, I'm going to pass it to Christopher. You can introduce yourself really quick and anything you want to say about One Nation, and as well as this platform for leadership, for All Win Paradigm Leadership.
Thank you, Rachelle. It's really an honor to be here with each of you today. Thank you for investing some time this evening with us, and a really honor to be co-facilitating with Rachelle and Brandon and Solara, some of my favorite people. Yeah, so like Solara mentioned, I am unbashfully devoted to paradise on earth, and believe that we have an opportunity to create the quality of the society that we imagine is possible. And we are at a choice point right now as humanity. A lot of people are deeply concerned and fearful about devolution into dystopia. And there's a lot of us that are holding the possibility that we're actually able to kind of, you know, move through a rebirth canal as a civilization, as a human planetary community, and create the world that I believe that our Earth is destined to. And in order to do that, we birthed One Nation as a political party, which our primary goal of a political party is to create and deploy all-win leaders into every aspect of society. So this is about cultivating leadership and helping those leaders to move into positions of leading their own lives and their families well, their communities well, businesses well, media well, scientific innovation well, and government well. And so as a political party, we are able to directly participate in electoral activities as kind of the zenith expression of leadership, moving itself into the world as a mayor, as a governor, as a congressional representative, as a president. But it's about so much more than that. It's about every single member stepping up into a deeper level of embodiment of their own leadership. And we use the term all-win leadership because there's a way that we can show up that transcends our oppositional frames, that transcends polarity, that believes that it's possible for, in any situation, if we listen deeply enough, and if we have sufficient empathy, and if we care enough, then we can always find a solution that leads to everybody's winning. But when we have selfishness and greed and desires for unhealthy expressions of power, then all of a sudden we start to believe that we can't create solutions where everyone wins, because we don't see those in the world. And those are where these other aspects that don't exemplify the highest expression of our humanity show up in the world. But when we keep coming back to the possibility of our highest potential being expressed and the highest potential of our collective being expressed, then I think that we see that an all-win world is possible. And so that's what this program is all about, is for our members and for people who haven't yet become members to get together once a month and to be supported and facilitated by our coaches to simply look a little bit around what all-win leadership means and how each of us can step a little bit more into that. We have a book about all-win leadership coming out. We have different contents. We have our chapters program where people come together once a month and go into specific domains and topics. We have lessons planned. So we're developing a whole array of offerings on helping people to cultivate their all-win leadership. And this online coaching call is one of those expressions. And so what I want to do next is just restate our 4 quadrants of what we refer to as all-win leadership, a little bit around what they entail. And then I'm going to hand it over to Brandon to take us away on quadrant number 1 for the evening. So the 4 quadrants of all-win leadership are: know yourself, know each other, know the world, and create all-win solutions. Know yourself is a reference to get in full relationship with how you think, with how you feel, with the traumas that you carry in your body and in your nervous system, with your own developmental edges, with your own capacity to communicate. Every aspect of coming into yourself. Know each other brings us into the domains of our relational skills, our communication skills, our empathy, our ability to support other people, and to really be able to take the perspectives of other people and to be able to get it, to be able to be so secure in your own perspective of the world that you can actually set it to the side and get inside of the world of another person. And we can't be all-win leaders until we can do that. We can't lead all-win businesses. We can't lead cities and states and nations until we have the ability to actually see the world from another person's perspective. So that's what we mean when we say know each other. Know the world is a reference to our deeper understanding for how the world works, our deeper understanding for governance systems and economic systems and social systems and the laws of physics and science, and better understanding history and how we got here and our biology and every aspect of this tangible reality. The better that we understand it, the more questions we ask, the better research that we do, the better students of life and reality that we are, the more that we can manipulate it in a positive way, the more we can realize that reality is actually malleable and that we can be empowered to create new solutions, right? Before you can build a bridge, literally, you need to understand some key principles of engineering and physics, et cetera. But once you have those principles, now you're unlocked with the capacity to build a bridge. And everything that we want to do in the world requires foundational understandings of how the world works in order for us to be able to create those types of solutions. So that's number 3, is know the world. And then number 4 is create all-win solutions. And this is the process of realizing that every action we take, every choice we make, has the opportunity to create a better world for every person on this planet. And the more considerate we are, the more thoughtful we are, the more skilled we become at understanding what really makes a solution an all-win solution, the better that we're creating solutions for the people in our home, so that there's a sense of harmony, right? Not a sense of conflict and not a sense of somebody's winning and somebody's losing, but we actually tended to our home environments well, and everyone really feels like they're winning, and that our communities have that same kind of feel. And we kind of come from the frame that to create an all-win experience is a little morsel of paradise itself. And so if we are all-win leaders creating all-win solutions for the people that we're interacting with, we're able to bridge those divides and expand our awareness and see new possibilities that we didn't see before, then we're just actually developing a certain level of expertise of creating paradise everywhere we go. And as we become stronger leaders in the world, then that's gonna have a greater breadth and depth of influence. Now we're actually creating a little bit of paradise as we run our companies every day, and as we interact with our communities. And look, one of us becomes a mayor through the One Nation platform, and now we're helping to create all-win solutions for our cities, and our cities are a little bit more like paradise, just because one person was heard that otherwise might not have been heard and was considered in how we maybe allocated a budget, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really where this all comes down to it, that once we're really connected to ourselves, and once we're connected to each other, and once we're really better understanding how the world works, then it just becomes natural for us to create all-win solutions everywhere we go. So those are the 4 principles of all-win leadership, and we are going to look at each of those for about 15 minutes each through our process tonight. Thank you, everybody, for your time and attention. Brandon, I think it's on to you to kick us off.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Christopher. So today, with the first quadrant being know thyself, we're going to talk about belief systems, the nature of beliefs, specifically the nature of negative beliefs, and how to let them go, how to transform them. And I'm not going to take probably more than 5 or 10 minutes to give you guys kind of that initial downloading context. What's most valuable about this interaction is if this sparks something within you, for us to actually have a dialogue and a transformational experience on this call. That's what's not just going to create the most change, transformation, growth within yourself, but for the entire collective, including myself. And so
I'll just mention also is if you haven't opened up, there's a chat box. If you click the chat icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and the chat box will open up, and we can use that as a side panel to interact a little bit as well. So if you have any thoughts around what Brandon is saying, just put them into the chat box, and we can ask some questions, and Brandon might even ask some questions that then you kind of make answers to in the chat box. So I want to use this as a part of the infrastructure of our call.
Yeah. Thank you, Christopher. So beliefs. First of all, this first statement is really, really powerful. So really hear this when I say this statement. Everything that we experience in life and how we experience everything in life is going to be a direct reflection of what we most strongly believe about ourselves. I'll say that one more time. How we experience everything, that means everything, is going to be a direct reflection of what we most strongly believe about ourselves. And this is, again, why this is the first quadrant, because know thyself really is the foundation for everything. So what is a belief? Well, number one, we live in a world that is fundamentally devoid of built-in inherent meaning. What does that mean? That means that looking at this, my little incense holder right here, this little Buddha statue, I might go, what does this mean to you? And some of you go, well, it just holds incense. And other people go, it's a very spiritual object. It means peace and love and all these things. And so how we interpret reality is going to be different for every single one of us. And so quite literally, we can't help but make things mean whatever it is that we decide either unconsciously or consciously to make them mean. And so we're quite literally meaning-making machines. And so understanding that it's not the thing, it's not the reality, it's not the circumstance, it's not the other person that is the source of my pain, suffering, upset, frustration, which a negative belief, or you can call it the negative aspect of the ego, will encourage you to believe that. Because as soon as you're caught up in, well, if I just change them, I'll be happy, boom, you've reinforced that negative belief is real, that it's absolutely true, that your, you're relieving yourself or transforming the pain lies in something outside of yourself, which just reinforces it and reinforces it. And just like anything in nature, a negative belief wants to perpetuate itself. So it will create a series of self-perpetuating evidence and logic to say, this is the most real. That is contained within every belief. Why is that important? Well, number one, there's a fundamental understanding about negative beliefs that it's essentially like the kryptonite of negative beliefs. And it's this: no negative belief can actually be true about you. No negative belief can actually be true about you. Well, why? Well, because if a negative belief says, well, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you are lacking this or that, if that was actually true, then we'd have to believe that about everything. We'd have to believe that about the forests, about other people. That would be a fundamental, objective law of reality. And there's just simply not. And so why is this important? Well, beliefs are the first stage that influences emotion. And science has shown that an emotional response actually comes before thought. So when we're buying into negative beliefs as real, oh, it must be true that if I share my opinion, then I'm going to get judged. And then that means that my opinion's not valid, and that reinforces the idea that I'm not smart enough. So I'm just not going to speak here, right? Well, then that an emotional reaction is going to feel like a contraction. It's going to feel like unsafe. It's going to be a survival type of response. That leads to thoughts that then reinforce that emotion, that leads to action, that then creates the physical proof. And if the action was inaction, well, that's the proof that your voice doesn't matter, right? A lot of times, and a lot of marketing companies, I mean, a lot of stuff, a lot of organizations or people in the world understand this logic, and they want to give you a solution that only focuses on the behavior. Hey, just do this new behavior, everything will be good. Just have this new pill, just, do this new morning routine, everything will be all right. Now, why doesn't that work? Because you're not getting to the actual belief level, which is it's the foundation that creates everything in your experience. So back again to negative beliefs, then I'm going to open up with a question for all of us to contemplate, and those of you that feel called to share, please share. A negative belief in of itself, I'm not going to go into all the ways right now, but there's 13 primary ways that a negative belief fools you into allowing you to believe that it's real. Some of those illusions, some of those smoke screens are things like blame, projection, rejection. Reward is a really funny one. Here's a funny, and I think we can all relate to this. I'm pretty sure I probably rewarded myself today, if I'm being honest. Reward is, oh man, I went to the gym and I just worked out so hard. I really deserve this ice cream sandwich. And you know what? And that whole bucket of ice cream next to it. I just deserve all that because I've been working so hard. And it's like we have to tell a story as to why we're choosing something. That's also called rationalizing or justifying. These are all different subtle ways that negative beliefs keep us perpetuating that cycle of negativity. And so, first of all, the first understanding is that negative beliefs aren't facts. They're just beliefs. And when it seems like they're absolutely true, that's because they're designed to make you believe that they are absolutely true. But when you understand that's just a function of the belief, it's not malicious. It's just the way that it's just its nature. It's like a neutron and a proton. Right? Proton and a neutron. A neutron is always moving around in an atom, right? The center of an atom in this like very unpredictable pattern, literally looks like like it's in this unpredictable smoke screen. The proton is massive, way bigger than the neutron, and it's just in plain sight. Well, you could see another analogy of the neutron, the negative charge, needing to hide itself. That's why we have an unconscious mind. That's where the negative beliefs need to go, to hide in the unconscious. None of us are unconsciously unaware of positive beliefs because by their nature, they don't need to hide. If I say, name something that's positive about you, you don't have to go, okay, let me go into my unconscious. You just choose something, right? So before I open it up, one last thing about negative beliefs, and here is the absolute crux when it comes to letting go of a negative belief. And in the transformational community, in the personal development community, because this may seem like an oversimplification to so many people, and because so many people carry the negative belief that says it can't be that simple, this has been misinterpreted throughout, centuries, especially in a lot of mainstream disciplines around trauma release and all these ideas. We love creating complex processes of all of this, doing all this stuff to let go of something, which sometimes that's needed. So that's valid too as an expression. But mechanically, it's very, very simple. You will automatically, and I mean without a doubt, this is just a fundamental fact of how the brain works. You will fundamentally let go of any negative belief as soon as you see for yourself. This is called the realization. You have to have your own realization. You have to see for yourself that that belief doesn't make logical sense. And the beautiful part about all negative beliefs is they don't make any sense. They cannot actually contain coherent logic. So it's the logic that could trap us, but it's also the logic that can free us. Now, obviously, there's more to it. There's feeling the emotion. There's actually having the courage to take responsibility. But the fundamental switch that actually goes, wow, I'm no longer going to choose that, is when you actually see it for what it is. And you see that it's not your belief. It doesn't have anything to do with you. You've picked it up along the way, and it doesn't contain logic, because every negative belief is inherently a fallacy. And so when you have the own awareness to be able to kind of observe your own beliefs and what you're making things mean, and see that it doesn't have to be that way, and ask the question, is this true? Is this a fact? And if you see that for yourself, boom, it's like if I held a ball up and it was a blue ball, and I said, hey, who here on this call believes that this ball is red? For most people, they're going to be incapable of raising their hand. They're like, no, there's no way I believe that. But if I hired a team of scientists to come in and say, hey, we have watched all of you for the last 10 years, and you all have this rare eye condition, and it actually is red, and we gave you enough evidence to logically go, oh, well, I guess then I will believe that. Then you'll all believe it. And we go, oh, we just made that whole thing up. Oh, then I won't believe it, right? Same thing with beliefs. So with that being said, I know it took a little more time, but this is foundational, because what is relating to the world, what is relating to other people, what is creating all win, it's all going to come down to making choices. And those choices can either come from a positive, aligned belief that allows us to live from our heart, or a negative belief that distorts reality and it's based in fear. Right? So with that being said, I want to pose a question. And if anyone has any questions so far, you can just type them in the chat box. The question is going to be as simple as this. What negative beliefs do you believe about yourself? Simple as that. And you don't need to fabricate them. If you sit there and go, oh man, I can't think of any, that's okay. But a lot of us, we actually don't need to dig too deep to go, oh man, this happened a couple of days ago and I thought this, and the last 24 hours I was triggered from that. I was thinking about this. So if anyone feels called, or like something just from this conversation came up that you're realizing, wow, I made that mean this, and I'm still kind of stuck in that emotional reaction, this is your time to voice that. Amber, did you raise your hand? Or were you just giving me a wave, just saying hi?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So it's just one quick question though. Is this belief system that you're talking about, is this related to Psych K at all?
Say that again, Psych K?
Psych K. Have you heard of Psych K?
No, I haven't heard of Psych K.
Okay. It brought up some other ideas.
Okay.
But it's funny that you're talking about this. I would say maybe 2 hours ago or so, I was having an email conversation with a friend back and forth. And I'm in the process of recreating a bio because of some new things that I've done in my life. And within putting together that bio, it brought up those fears of insecurity and I'm not enough. And even though I just completed this amazing course and I'm going through this amazing, transformation, and him and I were having this back and forth dialogue, and I was talking about, my dreams and aspirations and the challenges that I face when I think about these things. And one of them is working with computers and like building an online presence. And for a long time, I've had this belief about myself that because I dropped out of high school and I don't have a college degree, that I'm not smart. And it is not true at all. Yeah. And I know that.
That's so good. So Amber, let me just stay with that for a moment. Thank you so much, first of all. And second of all, my personal belief is that idea of not being enough, that may be experienced at every level of consciousness. Right. So you're not alone. I could say in the last few months that belief has come up for me as well. I think a lot of people on this call. The question is do we choose to believe it, and does it completely halt all of our action? And if it doesn't, that means on some level we believe more strongly in its counterpart, right? And that we are enough, right? And these sort of ideas. So my first question, well, let me just share one more thing, because this is going to help all of you. If you find yourself saying what Amber said, which I've experienced this so many times myself, I know that I have what it takes for this. I know that I'm smart enough, but I can't seem to let it go, right? Who's done that where you think you've like found a belief? You're like, I found it and I know it's not true, but you still feel kind of affected by it, right? Okay. So this is about understanding how we make choices. This is how every human being makes choices. We move away from what we believe to be is not in our best interest, and we move towards what we believe to be is in our best interest. That's called the motivational mechanism. It's the mechanism that creates all motivation. And so if you recognize, this belief that I'm not smart enough, it's not true, but yet I'm holding on to it, that must mean for some reason you're actually benefiting from holding on to that belief. That's the paradox. So the question to ask then is, well, what am I getting out of holding on to this belief? And usually it's something to do with if I actually did let that go and I did do the things I want to do, be successful, express the things I want to express, that's actually more scary than holding on to this belief and kind of doing maybe 80% of it. But it as actually keeping me safe from something or protecting me from something. That's not always the case, but the question to ask is, what are you getting out of holding on to the belief, onto that belief? How is it actually serving you? Amber, do you have a good answer?
Oh, no, you hit the nail on the head, because it's that odd place of it keeps me in a weird sort of old paradigm of I'm safe in this zone, as opposed to allowing me to grow forward and step into that new place of empowerment.
Yeah.
And it's scary, but
okay, so right there, it's scary, but why is it scary? These are the definitions to go into, because there's actually this contradiction, and this happens so much with all of us. We go, I'm pursuing this very empowered, exciting life, but something about this empowered, exciting life is scary. Yet how could something scary be contained within an empowered, exciting life? So sometimes we take these ideas that, if I am experiencing empowerment and excitement, then something bad must happen, right? Someone must get hurt. I might be alone, all these ideas. But again, that reality, like if you were to take it out of yourself, put it over here and go, empowerment, joy, me being myself, success. There is no loneliness within that equation. There is no pain in that equation, unless you're talking about a different reality that says, well, if I do that, then this would happen. So then the question to go into would be, if I really did go all out in that direction of empowerment, of whatever that of success means to you in that expression, what's the scariest thing you would imagine would happen?
So Brandon, I think we're about to transition. There's just one question coming in from Kea. In this paradigm, is it the case that things that are commonly thought of as negative, like getting sick, losing a job, someone dying, are actually not negative, but only our belief about it is?
Yeah. So Amber, I'll just leave you with that to contemplate, is that idea of, okay, if I actually did let go of this idea, what's the scariest thing I would imagine happening? The answer to that is what's going to let that whole thing go. When you realize that there is nothing to fear, and that you are using that belief to keep yourself from a fear that's actually you don't need to fear. Right when that clicks, it's boom. Okay, I no longer need to choose that to protect myself because I don't need protection. That I will be safe in my highest passion. So I just want to leave you with that. And Kea, is it Kea? Did I say that right?
Oh, it's Stephen. It's Stephen Kea, Brandon.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, Kea, that's not your name. I know you.
Kea is my spirit. Stephen Kea is my spiritual name.
Okay, that's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. So this is exactly right. I'll give you the brief response. Negativity. There's two ways of looking at negativity. One is negativity as an actual description of an energy. This doesn't contain the idea of morality. This is only a description of energy. A negative energy is that which separates, segregates, and compartmentalizes. That is not a negative thing when you're speaking from the perspective of right, wrong, good or bad, or morality. So a negative charge, right? From a spiritual perspective, if those of you that believe we're spiritual beings that decided to have this incarnational experience, that in a sense is a negative act, because we are splitting, you could say, an aspect of ourself into a body, you could say, to have this experience. But this is a very positive experience. So negativity as a description is one piece. Negativity as a projection of meaning. Yes, in this case, someone dying, losing a job, getting sick, all of these things are open for interpretation and for response. And really, that is the definition of responsibility. What am I choosing to make these mean, which determine my response, which determines my experience.
Epic, Brandon. Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to take on from here with talking about no other. There is no other. That's actually true too. But anyway, we're going to talk about knowing the other. So how many of you guys have had challenge in a relationship ever in your entire lives? Yep. Great. Yeah. Relationships are there as such a powerful tool of reflection and activation. And yes, they bring up all of our stuff, right? So this quadrant is that know yourself, that very first pillar, is completely essential and can't even be separated from this next one, where if you are coming into contact with someone, having a conversation, and you get triggered, the immediate thing is going into some kind of like trauma response. So we're going into fight, flight, and freeze. And so knowing yourself and being able to be connected to yourself in understanding what happens to you in order to be able to even have that next level of like connection and relationship, to know the other person, is working on that very foundation of that trauma response, and being able to find a way where you have worked through those patterns, and that you're staying with yourself and not abandoning yourself. And so that's the primary thing in being able to even begin to initiate this know the other, is not abandoning yourself. So having your own center. And then the next thing that happens is we have judgment. So the judgment comes up when we're having this potential conflict or relationship. And in that judgment, again, there's like this separation. And so getting to know yourself through judgment and looking at like what it is that you're seeing outside of yourself, that going back to that first step, once again, knowing yourself, being able to look at that judgment and find where that judgment is coming from, and how, so say we'll look at greed. So you see someone externally having this, what we're perceiving as greed, and that judgment of that puts us in separation. And so looking at, taking that self-responsibility to look at where the greed lives within you. And so it's not just looking at the greed, but being able to have a relationship with it, to the point of acceptance and love and compassion. Then it turns into that relationship with other. You can have compassion once you've owned it in yourself. And so so really being with those projections of that relationship that you're encountering is those are the first kind of ways into that. And then from that place, once you have not self-abandoned, you've been able to look at your judgments and take ownership of that, and have some compassion and self-love for those places, and love for the other for those places. Then you can first of all, assume positive intent. So the especially when we get triggered, it's easy to think that person is our enemy. And so looking at that person and seeing, okay, if I look at them instead as, if they have positive intent, what colored glasses can I look at them through now? And then once I can do that, I can start to get curious. And as you get curious, you start to ask questions without making assumptions. And so from that place, you're asking for their experience versus putting your experience on them as a projection. And from, so then you're just working with, how do you actually get to know this person and their reality and what their expression is? Because the first thing that we're always doing is putting our reality on other people and projecting. And so really having that as an exercise of doing these different steps to do that. And then just taking full responsibility for your own emotions in your relationship. And so that's another one that is a bridge of that, of those core elements of knowing yourself and bringing that into your relationship, so that you can have a positive experience in saying, taking ownership of, I got triggered in this location because of da 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 da. And so that's the framework. And really my desire is more to get, where do you guys get stuck in any of those levels that I just described? And being able to work with you guys. Or if you have any questions. I find myself judging people often. Yes. So say more. Anyone have any specific judgments that are coming up that they haven't resolved.
I'll throw myself into the ring.
Great.
That's what's happening right now. I find myself judging other people for being stupid. And I've been experiencing that since I was a kid. I used to come home from elementary school and tell my mom, everyone's stupid and my teacher's stupid. And this and I still find myself, despite loads and loads and loads of personal development work, just judging other people as being stupid. And it's a voice that goes off, and it's a judgment, and it leads me to feeling separation. It leaves me not feeling my heart. And so I just wanted to vulnerably share that as a judgment. I completely see how it decreases the intimacy between me and that person, and prevents me from potentially providing leadership or education or guidance or mentorship, because that judgment is creating something in between us, as opposed to, if it wasn't there, I feel like I would just be more loving and supportive and encouraging.
So 2 things that I'm curious about is, one of them is, when that happens, is what's kind of underneath you that might be in some kind of potential trauma response, even potentially. I don't know. I don't even know. I'm just being curious about this, as far as like why that reaction would come up. Like, is there something that you're protecting? That's the first one.
If I were just to go as vulnerable as I possibly can, as quickly as I possibly can get there, my guess is that I define my worth by feeling smart. And so I'm guessing I probably define my worth by being smart as some type of reaction and fear of being afraid of not being smart.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that if I didn't have some fear mechanism of not being smart, then I probably wouldn't need to prove that I'm smart in order to feel good about myself. So I feel like there's probably that relationship inside of myself. And I know enough about how the interior and exterior process works that if I've got that thought pushing outward, then it's must be a manifestation that thought is in a very unconscious way pushing itself inward.
Yeah, that was a little bit more towards my second one, which was just the relationship that you have to, if you were to sit with "I am stupid," what's your relationship to that?
Uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Can you find a place that feels true for you, to just sit in feeling stupid?
Yeah, I mean, I I feel like I'm right on the edge right now of feeling something really deep in that regard, really sensitive, tender.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how does it feel to put attention on it with curiosity and love?
Yeah, I feel that if if I kind of took a little bit more time around this, maybe after this call within my own self, like I feel like we're just a couple moments away from probably crying some tears about it. So to put that attention feels sometime healing or soothing. And it has that kind of like weird feeling, like maybe I've never really been here before. Like it's somehow this feels like it's a moment in time in my developmental process where I'm finally ready to acknowledge this piece.
It's beautiful. And then can you think of someone recently that you've had that thought of them being stupid?
Yes, I can.
And now having access to what you just felt or starting to feel with yourself there, and sitting with them in that spot with you, how does it feel?
Honestly, like it feels effortless to feel love regardless of what another person might say that I agree with or don't agree with or think is relevant or not relevant.
Beautiful.
I just feel like I got there.
Well, there's another potential as far as taking this a little bit further with now that field feels clear and open and you're more in your heart or are in your heart, then to be able to either, just mentally or actually in person with this person, to be able to have a conversation where you're curious, like having questions and asking them so that you understand them better. How does that feel?
Yeah, I mean, I'm crying. My eyes are definitely misting up as I feel all of that. I feel bad about how I've been, but bad in a really beautiful way. A remorse, I think. Feel remorse. I feel inspired by who I can be. Like I feel like a more beautiful version of me comes forward and that moves me.
Beautiful.
And I feel how I can be more aligned and in integrity with my desire to leave people feeling loved. I can literally feel a simulation where I interact with this person in a different way and just leave them feeling more loved, which is what I want everyone to experience. But a lot of people leave an experience with me and might not feel totally loved because of a judgment like this that might get in the way. So, I mean, I'm ready to go as deep as I can.
Yeah. I believe that. Thank you.
Thank you. That was really beautiful, Rachelle.
You're welcome. Yeah. Beautiful example too.
Well, this is Wayne in Austin. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just wanted to share, I was very judgmental of others till I was probably about 55 years old. And I changed, and I started changing because I started taking some classes on personal health. And one of the things I figured out about myself was that I grew up in a family of 4 boys in a small Midwestern town, and I was the youngest. And therefore, I was never big enough, I was never smart enough, I was never good enough to do any tasks, because I was constantly told that by my brothers. And I'll always remember the day I was allowed to wash the wheels on the family car for the first time. My brothers all washed the car gleefully, and I had to sit there for years and watch, and then finally I was allowed to wash the tires. And I think that has always been in the background for me. It's part of the first example we talked about here, but it was something that was in the background because as an adolescent in grade school, junior high, I was a good athlete. The girls liked me. I was very popular. I enjoyed life. And it wasn't probably till I got out of college and got into finance where I started doing what I thought were kind of miraculous things. And I kind of developed an attitude for myself that I can do virtually anything because I have that capability, patience, and fortitude to follow through on things. And so I really became enthralled with that. But then I realized I wasn't the smartest guy in the room. And I decided that many things, as I started my path to enlightenment, that I thought and believed in weren't true, that a lot of my beliefs just disappeared. And so I finally came to the point where, who am I to judge others? I don't judge others. I catch myself occasionally doing it, and my wife will correct me when she hears it. But I think that judgment is one of the real faults that many people have, and it goes much deeper than they think it goes. It's an underlying factor and a belief in themselves about how they feel about themselves.
Yeah, beautiful share. Thank you. Yeah, so much of that is from, again, like that fear of ourselves. So it's some kind of trauma within ourselves, and being able to heal that and be safe enough to, like, stay with yourself. And then from there, it's a lot easier to be able to accept other people when we're not trying to, when we're not activated in that level of fear where we're abandoning ourselves. So, yeah, thank you.
I guess if I could just finish that, where I used to be quite judgmental, now when I see someone, I say a prayer for them, and then beautiful. Just walk on.
Thank you. Thank you for the work you do. I think we should probably transition to, unless anyone has any burner, you can kind of put in the thread if you need to say anything. And then Christopher, do you want to take the third?
I would like to share something if I can.
Sure.
I would try to, I don't know how much time we have, but I'll try to make it really quick because I think it's really pertinent. I just kind of want to unravel this a little bit because I do believe that we're all interconnected and we're all one. And when I was going to share about my judgment, I had trauma as a child. From my father, I was molested from the ages 6 to like 5 or 6 years old. So I've spent an ungodly amount of time healing from that, and the part of my judgments are with men and the patriarchal system and how I consistently need to try to dismantle that within myself because I had trauma from a man. I've also had past life trauma from men. And now we're in a worldly crisis where the patriarchal system is part of the bigger problem as well. So why I'm speaking about this now is because when Christopher chimed in, I have felt when speaking with Christopher that I'm dumb, that I'm stupid. And I'm wondering if it's a reflection, because I know that my dad told me that I was stupid. So if somehow I pick up on that energy, and then I notice also that when I feel stupid or when I'm playing that tape, that I act dumb and that I can't be in my higher potential because I revert back to a place where I felt small and dumb. So I'm not saying this in any way to like criticize you, Chris, at all, because oh my God, this is amazing. And the vulnerability, this is what I need to hear from men. in order for me to heal.
Mhm.
But I am curious about the reflection and how that kind of energy affects us as a whole, like when we're in a collective state. So I just wanted to voice it to see maybe the unraveling of my own energy as Chris unravels his energy, and being able to tap into that as as also a field of love versus just a strand within you and a strand within me. If that made sense at all.
It does. It does. Thank you. It's another beautiful and vulnerable share. Thank you for saying that. With all of these parts, yes, it's very true. It's just like from a psychology basis, there's the self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's like we have this belief, and then we're going to manifest that belief because it's in a undercurrent. It's like how our energy is going out, and so then that projection comes back. So we that is a real thing that happens, and the basis of it's like on a very small level, just what we did with Christopher. It's the same actual thing is to be sitting with that place in you that and we're all afraid of those spots, the places that we're insecure or that we are stupid or whatever. And so it's like to be able to be in a relationship with that, for one, the actual thing, the belief I'm stupid. So feeling what does stupidity feel like inside of you and having a relationship with that. And then there's also the it's like the belief of it, and then the relationship that you have with that belief, and to be able to heal it. It's like is owning all parts. It's owning the part that is, owning the part that isn't. It's like not fragmenting any of these pieces. And so I would suggest the same kind of being with that voice, into going all the way into how to find the deepest part of your love, your self-love, that non-judgment for any behavior, belief, quality. Yeah.
Can I chime in for a moment?
Mm-hmm.
Is it Tiana? Tiana.
Tiana.
Okay. Beautiful name. You're actually the first Tiana I've ever met, which is pretty cool. I have a question. What is your passion, Tiana?
My passion, I have many passions.
Just a few, like just.
My spiritual growth is one. This vision of all win, paradise on earth, is a passion of mine.
Yeah.
Music is a passion. Writing is a passion.
Yeah.
Animals are a passion.
Awesome. I'm passionate about several of those things as well. My question is, do you believe you would have arrived at these passions if you didn't have the experiences that you've had thus far in your life?
No. I know that everything that I've been through has happened for a reason, and for, I went to go see my father, and got to look him in the eye and see that broken little boy.
Yeah. So I just want to reinforce that from a creatorship perspective, that's a very smart and creative thing that you've done with your life. Because what led you here was all of these challenges that you knew you could handle, to then come up creatively with passionate solutions that only you can provide. And to me, that's mastery. Right? Because how do we learn about supporting the patriarchy I say supporting because really compassion, forgiveness, empathy, those are the answers. Well, obviously some contrast is how we develop those things. How do we have compassion for something if we don't know what compassion is and what defines compassion, but some sort of pain, something that we don't prefer to experience. So your experience is like something that so many people can relate to, and they need your voice to say, if she can, we can. And that, from the perspective of spirit, is a very powerful, creative, smart thing to do. And so I'll just offer this for all of us and reinforce this in myself. We get to redefine what smart means and what dumb means and these sort of things, right? Because I see you as very intelligent, especially with what you just brought forth on this call and how that's landing for so many people. I mean, look in the chat, that sharing is facilitating transformation. So from my perspective, I go, genius. I go, that was like your honoring of what you felt called to share is what makes your unique expression invaluable. Which just can't be taken away. You can't be taken away. You're you. We all are. We have that. That's it. That is our ultimate intelligence.
Thank you. I believe in this, and I believe in the collective healing, and I believe that that's what we need in order if we're going to survive.
Yeah. And I believe that it's just as valuable as it is to look at where all of these beliefs are not true. It's equally as valuable to look at and own these parts and love them, because that's the shadow stuff that is going to continue to be reflected in our lives, as well as the judgment externally. Whether it's a judgment, whether it's reflected to us because of our belief underneath, or it's the external judgment that we're putting on someone else, creating separation. So to own that part is a really beautiful, important part.
I'll jump in with quadrant number 3, and just to respond to you, Tayana, as you mentioned the dynamic, my short response to that is, we're finding each other so we can heal together. It's as simple as that. So we know ourselves, and that really is the foundation. And there's really not much we can do till we have a little bit of a center that then we can start to authentically know others and relate to others, understand their truth and see their innocence. And that then kind of opens us up to this third tier, this third quadrant, which is to know the world. And I don't have too much specific content prepared for this, so I just want to share a couple lines, then maybe open up a conversation for a couple of minutes. But I want to establish the term sense making, right? So raise your hands if it's a term that you use often. Raise your hand if it's a term you haven't really heard much before, sense making. So sense making is a term we need to bring into the center of our conversation and their culture as an all-win community, as a One Nation network. And it's to have a conscious awareness around the quality of how we make sense about the world, and where our sense making might have holes, where our sense making might be weak, right? If I go to the gym and I look around, it's very self-evident to see who's strong, who's weak, and where I stand in the mix relative to like muscle mass, right? But sense making isn't as obvious. But like muscles, some of us are very powerful in our sense making, have a deep rigor of how we think and how we check sources and how we investigate information. And other people are very weak, very gullible, very nonsensical, allow information in without a lot of rigor, maybe have like a fairly incoherent frame where Like we haven't really made a lot of sense about the world. And unfortunately, we have a tremendous amount of force fighting our sense making, right? So some of the things that fight our sense making are advertisements that try and make us believe this or believe that or believe that. News that's designed to hijack our limbic system and our emotional system, trying to get us to believe this or believe that or believe that. The way that we are separated from each other and don't have as deep of experience of family and community as maybe our ancestors might have, that actually lived in deeper proximity with each other in like a tribal situation. And so we're becoming, it becomes very important for us to get authentic with how we do sense making. And at the political level, at the policy level, this requires a tremendous amount of rigor of research and analysis. And I think one of the things that I'm very pleased with and proud of what we're creating with One Nation is beginning to assemble sense-making capacities that aren't serving a particular corporate interest or a particular profit interest, but are actually trying to make sense to understand reality itself. So many of us might think that we know a thing or two about climate change, or a thing or two about ecological issues, or a thing or two about peak oil, or a thing or two about financial collapse, or a thing or two about a corporatocracy, or, we might think that we really have it all figured out of what's going on. And likely there's a tremendous amount of information we don't have. And likely we've oversimplified the issue in our own minds. And likely we're not actually ready to provide leadership because we don't have enough information. And we haven't developed our own central intelligence agency to have a depth of rigor on every particular topic. So as a political organization, in order to help us to know the world better, we want to create collective intelligent sense-making mechanisms so we can all do that analysis together and inform our policies, inform our leadership in the world. But at the individual level, in the micro level, that's where I want to focus on right now, because that's really kind of what we can touch here in this coaching frame. And it connects to everything that's been talked about thus far, which is how we interpret our experience, how we interpret our experience with other people, how we interpret our experience around the situations and the circumstances that we find ourselves in, how our beliefs or our judgments now are actually completely getting in the way with how we are interpreting reality, right? So ontology is how we perceive and relate to reality itself. So it's not just that our judgments and our limiting beliefs are negatively impacting our lives and kind of leaving us feeling a little bit more miserable than it could. It's actually fundamentally jeopardizing our ontological frame. We're actually making poorer sense of the world around us because these judgments, these limiting beliefs are getting in our way. And so as we start to peel back those judgments and peel back the limiting beliefs, then our sense making is increasing and we're able to slow down a little bit more. And we're able to touch reality a little bit more. And we're able to think a little bit more clearly. And we're getting out of the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight, which is going to make us just react quickly to be defensive, just for survival's sake, versus the parasympathetic nervous system that's much more creative, much more curious, much more open. And so I just want to kind of leave us with that as far as the little piece today is to be very suspicious and skeptical upon yourself when you feel certain about what's so, but you're feeling a sense of contraction, fear, judgment, negativity. That's when we say, oh wait, my sense making might be off here. Everything I think about this situation, it might actually not even be true. And I don't really know that I can trust myself and my interpretation of reality until I'm relaxed. until I can feel my heart, until I can think clearly. And then the question becomes, what do I need to do to connect to myself so that I can then come back to the situation and see it for what it is? And holy smokes, just by getting out of that sympathetic nervous system contraction space and into a different state, now all of us, I can just see something I didn't see before. And I'm actually perceiving reality better. And then I can be with reality, connected to reality. And there's a line in the Tao Te Ching that says that the masters live their lives as though they're walking across a frozen brook. Or you can imagine a frozen brook. There's ice, there's like frozen rocks. Like, what could be more slippery to try and navigate than a frozen brook? And it's so easy for us to interpret reality in a way that's false, that it requires us to be as careful as though we were walking across a frozen brook, with moment by moment, with how we're actually perceiving reality around us. And for sake of time, I'm going to not have an open coaching session because I want to give the space to Solara to bring her piece through. But I guess if I would just take one moment, I'd have every one of you ask yourselves, you know, how do you feel about your sense-making capacities? Where do you might feel overly certain? When might you feel overly certain? How can you become more curious and ask more questions? And how can you notice the next time that you feel certain the way that things are, but your energy feels negative? You know, can you just try an interrupt, a pattern interrupt, and focus on kind of letting go of that moment, connecting to yourself, and then re-engaging, and maybe you'll see something new next time. So thank you very much for receiving that share. And it's my honor and privilege to pass the time over to Solara. And then Solara, if you could please give me like at least 3 to 4 minutes before the hour's out. So you've got like 9 minutes. So bring it on.
I can go fast. I'll just pull all of this through. Thank you so much, Christopher. Thank you, everybody who has shared up into this point. And so we're going to jump into the pillar of creating all-win scenarios and also architecting paradise on earth. And what I'm being directed to channel through right now feels really relevant to everything that we've been speaking into as a whole. So my deepest hope is it is very supportive for all of us. But what keeps coming through is data optimization. So from a very clear lens, if we can look at, we speak into negative beliefs or separation or fear and all of these illusions or skewed perceptions of reality, those fragmentations, and put them into a space, put them into a space on the left in the right-hand quadrant, just looking at what is actually life-giving, what is life-enhancing, what is, pure, prolific, we can call it source intelligence or pure consciousness or our higher genius, however we each uniquely relate to that energy, and what is truly the pure, timeless quintessence and nature of reality itself and nature of who we all are at our deepest core, beneath those patterns, beneath those programs, beneath that desire to separate from life in those moments where it feels vulnerable to let that love in all the way. Because what I was hearing reflected in so much of what has been spoken into is that even beyond the beliefs and the paradigms that we associate, with our judgments and all of this, at the core level, there's either a willingness to allow ourselves to receive the love that we are fully, or there's a tendency to separate from it out of fear, out of trauma, out of a habitual programmed response. And each of us, come into this experience from previous lifetimes with the lineage of our family, with cultural and societal conditioning that compiles itself on top of the light and the truth and the beauty and the love that we all are. So we're in this beautiful sacred process together of opening, truly it's just a process of opening and relaxing fully deeply into our bodies to allow that light intelligence to emerge from our DNA, to let that love in and to learn to trust in the totality as the one self. As, you know, if we kind of take a eagle-eyed view and we know the self is one self, and we're engaging with people, we're engaging with life, and we're having these experiences on a moment-to-moment, day-to-day basis, what we're actually engaging with are facets of our own mind and our own consciousness. So these are all sacred, precising feedback mirrors and beautiful sacred beings who have come to reveal some aspect of our own mind to us. So immediately there can be a sense of curiosity and gratitude around what it is that we're trying to communicate with ourselves, so that we can allow more of that pure intelligence. And you know, just a tool for that, or a way to access that or tap into that, because it certainly is a cultivation, is to become deeply intimate in the space of know thyself, so that we can know the world in its true and perfect harmonious state, is to start to optimize what we listen to, what we read, what we are viewing, what we're looking at, what we're ingesting on all levels. And this translates to, you know, our health. So these were some aspects that I wanted to speak into. For one, embodying paradise on earth, and then two, in each moment, in each step and breath that we take, giving the gift of our inner paradise to the world around us, because our entire world is a reflection of who we are, and on a really deep level we actually are the world. So as we clarify and bring to light the truth of our nature, everything in our outer experience will automatically reflect that, and that includes the world that we align to and that we live with. And so truly the transformation is an inner transformation from the inside out. And so some of the aspects of that were, you know, one, receiving who and what we truly are. And so starting to filter the voice of pure consciousness, filtering the voice of love, of truth, of source intelligence, or however that energy, we uniquely resonate with that in our experience, and cultivating our inner ecosystem. So another way to look at this too, is to make it not so elusive and just bring it into the scientific realm for a moment, is light. So light is information. So how do we code ourselves with more light through our nutrition, through our health, through movement, which naturally activates light intelligence inside of our cells and our DNA to release higher consciousness. So light being information, higher consciousness to our conscious mind, so that we become more self-aware. So cultivating the inner ecosystem, our mind, our body, our bioenergetic system, and then looking at how we can carry that energy through into, you know, our environment. And a focal point in my reality is just pure care. So what would it be like to take care of every single thing in my life, in my world, in my environment, as if it were me? Because on a larger scale, it actually is a part of me. You know, this is the quantum body that we're all living in. So we're taking care of the internal body, but then what is it like to take care of the perceived external body, being our environment, our relationships? So that relationship that we have with ourselves through others, and truly all of life is a relationship. So we really get down to, like Christopher speaking into, walking on that lake, it's just, what is our relationship to life in every moment? And am I relating with myself, and am I relating with others in the world around me as expressions of that pure consciousness? So becoming intimate with what our relationship with that intelligence is first is very foundational, and then we can carry that relationship through into all facets of our experience. And we look at, how do we, you know, fuse our will with the I am will, the will of life itself, to bring all in, all win for all life service to the world through our unique passions, our unique legacy, our personal contribution and philanthropy in the world. You know, what is it that we are deeply passionate about, that we care about? You know, environmental causes, educational systems, leadership, and all of us being here, political systems, one nation, and where would we like to see paradise in action, paradise being expressed on a global scale systemically, and how can we utilize our unique gifts to bring that forward. And so it's, we each have our own unique genius in that way, and we're all part of this gorgeous puzzle and landscape of creation, and we each add something very unique to the whole. So bringing that forward and through in the ways that truly inspire and compel us, because each of us living in our highest joy and our highest passion is what's ultimately going to amplify the whole and really take us leaps and bounds at an exponential rate. And Albert Einstein said, creativity is intelligence having fun. And it's so true, because when we allow ourselves to relax into our natural essence and our flow, so much creativity starts to come online. And that's really where genius and pure brilliance and solutions for all wind paradigms start to flow friction free and without all of that resistance. And we can just allow that to come through and gift that to the world. And, starting to perceive through the lens of prosperity as well. So there's a huge component in the work that I do. So, with the recognition that everything that is expressing is an expression of light, sound, frequency, and vibration. And so therefore it is automatically an expression of abundance. And so a lot of these paradigms that we have generated, that we have adopted, that we have picked up in a multitude of ways throughout our experience, of lack or of limitation or of separation or of fear, aren't truly real at the end of the day. But what really is real is that we're surrounded by beauty and abundance constantly. And so it's really, a unique cultivation for each of us, how we tune into and enrich ourselves and our being with gnosis of who and what we truly are and what this is and what we have access to, and that it is absolutely safe to open into trust in the totality of all that we are as that pure abundance, and really allow paradise to filter through us in the most pristine, immaculate, uninhibited way, so that we can each live our highest joy and highest potential in bringing, in crystallizing a paradise that's already here. Because truly it's here. It's just the actual transformation that we're going through as a collective unit is a transformation in vision. And it's a transformation in our sight. We're allowing ourselves to see what is true beneath the illusion. And that, from that point of true insight, we can take the most effective, inspired, highly energizing, life-giving, win-based, solution-oriented actions that enhance everything around us in all moments. Okay. I think.
Let's just take a breath. That was rich. Let's just take a full inhale together as a group.
Yeah.
Thank you, Solara, for bringing that through. And that is really what this is all about. When we know ourselves and when we know each other and then we know the world, there's really nothing left to do developmentally than just to start to pour our unique genius out into the world. And the paradigm and the premise that One Nation is built upon is that everything we need to create paradise is in all of us. We are the genius, we are the capacities, and what we get to do now is to express the deepest expression of our genius out into the world. And that's a process, just like a flower blossoming is a process. And we want to create the space for everybody to participate in that. And Barbara Marx Hubbard used the term synergistic democracy. And that concept is very profound. It means that you don't create the society you want by your votes. You create the society you want by your genius, that we are synergizing geniuses. And that's what's actually informing our future. And another ally, Mark Gaffney, used the term unique self-symphony, that we're actually finding our unique self, tuning ourselves to our unique essence, and from that place participating in a symphony of other people, a symphony of co-creativity. And One Nation is creating the sandbox and the context for a lot of that unique self-symphony to occur within. I would love to see just a raise of hands if something impacted you tonight, if you experienced some value from tonight's coaching session. Awesome. Awesome. Yay. I think that's everybody. So I just want to close us out with the last couple moments of elements, and I'm just going to go just a couple minutes after the hour, but I want to be really respectful of everybody's time. I want to invite everybody into our Facebook group. So if you're not already a member of our Facebook group, I'm going to drop the link right now so you can join. It's totally free, and it's the space for this conversation and this community to continue to grow. So I'm just putting this link right now in the chat. Go ahead and click on it real quick and open up another window, because when we close down this session, this chat's going to go away. So just kind of open up that link, and you can click request to join, and you have to answer 3 questions for us to allow you to join. So if you're not already, please get yourself in that group. And what we're doing as a growing network is we are helping to do every single thing we possibly can to generate paradise for ourselves and to create the organizing mechanisms to create paradise for the world at the level of our businesses, cities, states, nation, and international planetary relations. And this is a long-term play. So if you want to be a part of something that is working on a multi-decade, multi-generational arc that is fully devoted to the deepest systemic transformation we can imagine and helping to move us through a rebirth canal to arrive into an all-win world, then please stay a part of this community. And I'd love to invite everybody who hasn't yet to register as a member of the One Nation Network, to continue to get more involved and to not only just kind of be a bystander or a passive recipient, but actually to step up into the court. And Rachelle and Brandon and Solara, this whole program is an expression of their unique genius bubbling up and serving our network. And we have many other programs. If you go to onenation.party and click on programs, you'll see a drop-down menu of a growing list of programs which we're offering, including monthly group meditations and a discovery call, which is a way to have a really intimate conversation with another member twice a month, and our One Nation radio station, which is a streaming station full of anthemic music. And there's a growing list of programs that are all the expressions of genius of our members using One Nation as a context or a sandbox to play, to let their intelligence play through their own creative process. And so I invite each of you who haven't yet to register as a member and then use your membership as a context to get more formally involved. And so I'm just going to drop that link real quick as well, that if you're inspired, you can follow that through. And here's that link. And lastly, we hope that you come back and that you bring other people to our monthly all-win leadership coaching sessions. And our first call, we had about half this many people or so. And this call, we have double. And we have a pretty strong vision that we'll be able to bring hundreds or even thousands of people together on our Thursday evening calls once a month to just do our best to bring this information forward and then use this as an activation context to then help people form local chapters where they take their training of all-in leadership to the next level and get them more involved with the party and the network in various ways to have opportunities to provide that leadership forward in our One Nation field. So everything is a mechanism designed for you to step into a higher expression of your all-in leadership while connected to a growing field that's becoming a political body that over the years, decades, and generations to come will be able to have a profound impact on helping the entire world move into this all-win reality that we really know in our hearts is possible. And now it's just time to organize in order to manifest it at every scale of human society. So thank you very much for your presence today. And I would love to just spend tons more time with everybody, and being a part of membership is one way to do that. Being in the Facebook group is another way of doing that. And coming back to our next call is another way of doing that. So I guess without further ado, we are, and I want to thank Rachelle for holding this program and holding the program together. So thank you for your leadership. And I just was asked if the recording will be available. Yes, the recording will be available I will post it in our group, so it'll be there. And I think that what I'd like to do on our way out the door is jump in the chat group and share one piece of value that you experienced tonight. How are you positively impacted? Let's just see those kind of come through as a feed, and that'll be our farewells and our goodbyes. Let's see, show me what you guys got.
Yeah, thank you all so much for coming and sharing your hearts and your feedback.
Like minds and hearts, thought I was alone for so long. We're finding each other so we can heal together. Feeling everyone's unique transmissions and heart signatures, offered opportunity for reflection on where I am currently holding judgment. Creativity is intelligence having fun. Go ahead and pop yourselves off of mute so we can and then say goodbye.
They're still coming in too.
Coming in, rewiring and remembering to not abandon ourselves and triggers, knowing that my self-doubt is okay to feel however true. We get to refine what smart means. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Thank
night,
you
guys.
all. Thank you.
Wow.
See you next month.
Bye.
Oh, guys.
Mhm.
Mwah.